Some of the comments surrounding Roger Alexander's inability to read in Parliament suggest to me that many of our citizens do not quite understand the responsibility of MPs and more so ministers in the cabinet. Roger Alexander totally messed up his motion. Well, not his motion. It's just a little introduction before he goes into the line items for his supplementation, right? So we're discussing the budget, and he's basically saying, this is whatever, and I'm open to questions now. Now, he absolutely messed that up, and people are talking about it. Many persons would not have seen what happened after, because a lot of persons did not sit and watch a whole day's worth of debate in Parliament and whatnot. He would have been questioned, because it's like this long, massive book with line items, line by line by line, prepared by accountants, because these are the accounts of our country, and you have to account for every single dollar. So the opposition would say, this $178 million, can you tell me, is it this, is it that, whatever? And they're asking questions. He was totally out of his depth. Now, it's one thing, he couldn't read. I don't know what's going on. And let me address that for a moment, because persons were saying, well, once he does his job, it don't matter how he presents in Parliament and whatnot. It spoke to a lack of respect for citizens, the fact that he did not prepare his speech, even if someone wrote it for him. He must have taken the time to sit and read it and understand that there are words in there that he cannot pronounce properly, or he needed to take the time to be comfortable with the material, so that even if he changes it and makes it his own, because you know what? A parliamentarian that doesn't read from his speech actually presents better. So he could have used the days before and prepared and read it over and done a little Google search on certain words, find a synonym for other words, and so that the speech could have been his own and he could have presented it properly, simply but properly. So there was a disrespect to citizens by not being prepared. More so, he was not prepared with the document in front of him. Guys, I want you to understand, he is in charge of a ministry where billions of dollars are entrusted to him. Would you entrust to Roger Alexander, if you were the CEO of a company, would you say, hey, here's $8 billion per year. Go ahead and manage it. Would you do it? But somehow, Kamla Persad-Bissessar has thought that he is somehow competent enough to be in charge of some $8 billion every single year. He could not read the line items. He could not understand it. The other ministers had to jump to his defense because he could not answer basic questions regarding the accounts in front of him. And he didn't have to know it off the top of his head. The accounts were there. He just needed to know how to interpret it, how to flip from one page to the next, how to read the details and the explanations that would have been attached to the line items. He did not understand it. He's not a police officer with boots on the ground physically arresting people. He is the Minister of Homeland Security. It's a whole different pay grade. It's a whole different set of qualifications that he needs to have. It's a different set of abilities, a different set of competencies, and he does not have it. So when people speak about once he getting the job done, the fact is this is his job now. He is a parliamentarian, and Trinidadians and Tobagonians need to understand the difference between a councillor who in charge of box trains, a police officer who in charge of being on the ground, and an administrator. He is now an administrator. Office work. That's what he is now. He is a suit and tie office work. He is a legislator. Our bills are put in language fit for lawyers. So even if he's not a lawyer or an accountant, he has to have the capacity to take on such a role. So it's not about us just bashing the fact that, yes, his reading. And again, there is a responsibility. We need to be able to follow what you are saying. That is a huge part of your job. You are a debater. You are presenting in Parliament. That is your job. Member of Parliament. The biggest part of your job is to answer questions inside of Parliament, to be able to speak in a language, in a manner appropriate and acceptable for Parliament. So there's not just bashing people who can't read and write. There is a space for persons who are real good with their hands, who are on the ground and get it done at that level. And then there is a space for parliamentarians. And we have to understand the difference. And if you cannot be a parliamentarian, if you cannot be a minister to answer questions about your ministry, if you do not have the competency to manage $8 billion every year, then you should not be there. Trinidad and Tobago, raise your standard. You have to understand your worth as a citizen. You have to understand that these people are playing with your money, your children's money, and your grandchildren's money. Being in charge of $8 billion every year is no small chump. There's not small goal. It's not small goal. Trinidad and Tobago, wake up. Because the future of our country depends on how awake we are and how alert we are to the seriousness of what goes on in Parliament. Even though it don't look like, sometimes it look like a circus, there is serious business. And it takes competent, serious people to take our country forward.